Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1. Yes, we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1.
Time now for Dolphins Central. Here's Thomas Galicia.
2, down, sit, hut. Can't touch us.
Welcome, everybody, to the debut episode of Dolphins Central, a member of the Pro Football Central Network. I am your host, Thomas Galicia, Miami Dolphins feature columnist on BleacherReport.com. Our program is going to feature plenty of exciting guests throughout the coming weeks, months, and years as we discuss the going on in Dolphins land, from Davie to Miami Gardens and beyond. Our first guest is an NFL and NBA writer on RotoWorld.com, as well as an NBA writer on Metro Philly, and as his Twitter profile describes him, a wannabe NBA general manager. Here is Adam Levitan. All right, everyone. Here is RotoWorld, Adam Levitan. Adam, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. Now, first things first, I saw on Twitter the other day that you were finalizing the rankings on the RotoWorld Draft Guide, and you had Ryan Tannehill ranked at 18th among quarterbacks. What was it that influenced that ranking?
Yeah, I think we saw what Tannehill did last year with not too many weapons, right? I mean, he had Brian Hartline, who had one good game all year, and Devon Bess, who isn't exactly a burner, and Anthony Fasano, and he still had a pretty solid year, I thought. Finished in the 20s among fantasy quarterbacks, I believe, but now he gets this whole overhaul, and then he gets Mike Wallace, and he gets Dustin Keller, and he gets Brandon Gibson, and I think Lamar Miller is going to handle his own in the running game, so I think they won't be able to stack the box too much. So, yeah, I think things are looking up for Ryan Tannehill. He's mobile, and he's got a big arm, and the way they play, they're going to try to play faster. So yeah, I think things are looking up. I'd be okay with him as my backup quarterback in fantasy this year.
Oh, very good. Speaking of Miami's running backs, what would you expect out of Lamar Miller and also new draft pick Mike Gillisley? And we can't forget about Daniel Thomas, who, when he was drafted, you actually had him as an impact rookie.
Right.
What would you expect out of those three this season, and who do you think is most likely to come out as the starter?
Right. I think the Dolphins have been pretty clear in going on the record saying they expect Lamar Miller to be the starter. They kind of heaped all this praise on him, and they let Reggie Bush walk, and that's because they seem to have a lot of confidence in Lamar Miller. We have such a small sample size on him. I believe he only had 50 carries or somewhere around there last year, and that's not really enough to evaluate a guy, but, we've seen these young running backs come in and certainly impress. Daniel Thomas is a guy that theoretically had the talent coming out of college to do it, but he's put the ball on the ground, and he's been really struggled to pick up yards per carry, so I think that they could even be moving on from him. I expect Mike Yousefi, the rookie out of Florida, to go ahead and win that backup job, and he's not exactly explosive, but you never know with these running backs. I mean, they get the right scheme, and they hit the hole. You see it with Alfred Morris and guys like that all the time. You never know what's going to happen. So we're going to have Lamar Miller as a RB2 kind of in that 20s range among the running backs, 15 to 20, and we'll see how it goes from there. He definitely won't be for the faint of heart. I mean, if you're an owner that likes the sure thing, Lamar Miller's not going to be for you, but he could easily outperform that projection, in the RB2 range because he's got some talent, and he projects as a feature guy for the Dolphins.
Yeah, very nice. Now, you were speaking about Wallace earlier when I asked about Tannehill. Overall, what effect will the Wallace signing have, not just on the Dolphins' offense, but also on the fantasy values of his teammates like Hartline and some of the newer guys like Dustin Keller and Brandon Gibson?
Yeah, I think the Dolphins are pretty desperate for somebody to take the top off the defense, and that's something that Mike Wallace can certainly do. I mean, on the field, he's probably the fastest, or one of the fastest, if not the fastest, receivers that there is in the league. So even if he's just running these straight vertical routes, which we know he can do, he'll open things up underneath for the likes of Keller and Gibson and guys like that. But I think Mike Wallace, some people compare him to Deshaun Jackson. I don't think that's necessarily fair. I think Mike Wallace is more willing to go over the middle and more willing to, more capable of running some of those in routes and some of those crossing patterns that some of these other speedsters that are just vertical guys aren't, and that's why Mike Wallace got so much money. Maybe they overpaid, but I think they definitely needed a guy like Mike Wallace. So, I'd have him probably between 20 and 30 among my wide receivers right now, which at a deep position is pretty solid. I think that he's going to have a good year for them as the go-to guy for Mike Wallace and make some big plays and open things up. I do like Keller. Keller's a pretty talented guy, and if he gets one-on-one coverage against a linebacker, he's going to win that a lot of the time. So I do think that Keller has a chance to be in the top 12 among tight ends, and definitely Mike Wallace, somewhere in that 20 to 30 range.
Very good. Now, does the Dolphins offensive line, which is revamped, they moved Jake Long out. Well, they didn't move him out. He just left. And because of that, they moved Jonathan Martin from right tackle to left tackle, which was his college position. Does that give you any pause for concern with the Dolphins offense from a fantasy perspective? Because it does give some Dolphins fans some concern, just in terms of how successful the offense will be.
Yeah, it gives me a lot of concern. I mean, Jonathan Martin, he's not an elite left tackle, and some say that he's not even a starting left tackle. Now, I'm not going to go that far. He's only been in the league for 1 year, and maybe he takes a step forward in year 2, which is definitely possible. If you can't protect the quarterback, you can't throw deep, and if you can't protect the quarterback, then you can't really get much done on offense at all. So it's a big concern. I know the Dolphins are going on the record saying they're real optimistic about Martin's chances of being a solid left tackle. I think if he can be average, Jake Long was declining pretty badly. I think he was average last year, and if they can get that kind of play out of Jonathan Martin, they'll be okay. But I don't think that they can just pencil him in and say, hey, just go out there and single coverage against some of the game's best defensive ends and protect Ryan Tannehill's blind side. I don't think that's very fair. So hopefully they'll give him some help and they'll be able to get this thing worked out. But yeah, it's definitely a concern. Definitely something to watch in camp.
Yeah, that's one of the main things we're looking at. What does help Martin is the fact that he did play left tackle in college, and I thought last year the fact that he was moved around so much, where he started as the right tackle, then when Long went down, they moved him to left tackle. That kind of mixed things up so much. Whereas this time around, he's going into camp as the starting left tackle. But there are some players like even John Jerry could even push him for that in camp. But it is a bit of a concern. One thing that's not really a concern is how solid the Dolphins' defense will be. But from a fantasy perspective, the new acquisitions like cornerback Brent Grimes and our new linebackers, and of course rookie Deion Jordan, what kind of effect will they have on the Dolphins' defense fantasy-wise? Because I know fantasy-wise, since they didn't really create a lot of big plays, they weren't exactly the most valuable. Do you see that changing with the new players?
Yeah, I think they'll make some more plays. I mean, Brent Grimes, I know he's coming off an ACL. If you can get up to full strength, he has a chance to be a legit number one corner for you. And I think that Deion Jordan, obviously, has a chance to be a serious playmaker. I thought they overpaid a little bit for Ellerbe, but he's solid, and Wheeler also, but he's solid. Both those guys are solid on the edge. So, yeah, I think that they're going to be better. I wouldn't target them. I prefer to stream my defenses. I take, one that I think is going to be solid, and then I'll kind of rotate them in based on matchups. But, yeah, if the Dolphins are playing the Jets, I'd be more than happy to get them out there, and I think that they're going to do better, and I think that maybe they'll make some more plays for you. So, yeah, they'll definitely be in my rotation of teams that I would use in terms of streaming this year.
Actually, now you mentioned the Jets, and from the looks of it, actually, my rotation would just be based off of who's playing the Jets this week, especially if Sanchez is a starter. Oh, Adam.
Yeah. Just map it up. Just map it out for the whole year. Just get your defenses set. You can get them set 17 weeks ahead of time.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining us, and everyone be sure to read Adam's work on RotoWorld as well as on Metro Philly, where he writes about both the NFL and the NBA. Thank you so much, Adam.
All right, thanks for having me.
No problem.
Are you looking for an NFL website that doesn't throw rumors against the wall and hope they stick? Then please go to ProFootballCentral.com for up-to-date news and information. ProFootballCentral.com is back and better than ever. We're dedicated to being your number one NFL fan site, so come check us out at ProFootballCentral.com and experience the difference.
Well, ladies ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to our next guest on the program. This is Sun Sentinel Dolphins beat writer Omar Kelly. Omar, thanks for appearing on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So OTAs going on this week. What have impressed you the most so far during OTAs?
Well, I would say probably Brent Grimes, the cornerback that they added on a one-year deal during free agency. He's very small, and everybody who talks about him or singles him out, they always mention his size. It doesn't matter who it is, Mike Wallace, Claybo, Joe Philbin, another receiver, another cornerback. It doesn't matter. They mentioned that he's small, and he even addressed the fact that he knows he's small, but let's not pretend like he's 5'6". And really, he gets the job done. Very instinctive, has good ball skills, good recovery speed, and I'm surprised that he's been practicing every day without limitations coming off that Achilles injury. I thought he would be slowly worked back in, but he looks like he's fine and ready to go.
Oh, that sounds great. The secondary, of course, a great position of need. Another position where there seems to be a battle, at least according to your OTA breakdown, is the running back competition. How is that looking, and who so far has performed the best?
I don't think it's safe to say anybody has performed the best or outshined the other, considering this is OTAs. It's basically practice in shorts. It's glorified flag football. And so, running backs are really judged and evaluated based on contact. So you can't really see anybody get hit. So it's hard to sit there and say somebody is shining more than another. But I have found it surprising that Lamar Miller, every day that we've been there is no rotation. It's Lamar Miller's the starter. Daniel Thomas is the number 2. Marcus Thigpen was working as the number 3. And none of these things are really surprising because that's how everybody would expect it to shake out. But you would think they'd at least pretend like there's a competition, like that, every day this guy's going to get reps with the 1s and then the next guy's going to get reps with the 2s. But Joe Philbin really doesn't really pretend very well. On a lot of these camp battles, there aren't really camp battles. You watch Caleb Sturgis, the rookie kicker from Florida, kick today. He got all the kicks during team drills. No kicks for Dan Carpenter, and I don't think the Dolphins are even pretending that that's much of a competition. They just do what they need to do to help what they believe can make the team better.
Wow. As for making the team better, Jonathan Martin, how has he, in the limited action that we've seen in OTAs, how has he looked so far? Since that is a huge concern, at least for me, going forward.
Oh, yeah, it's a tremendous concern because if Jonathan Martin isn't probably twice as good as he was last year, if he doesn't cut down on his pressures and his sacks significantly, at least cut it in half, this Dolphins offense is going to be in trouble. It's kind of hard to evaluate him because I'm watching him going against Olivier Vernon, who is a starting defensive end right now, with Jared Odrick working inside because Randy Starks is sitting out all of the OTAs. He's skipping it, basically pursuing a multi-year contract. And then Deion Jordan is not here because he's attending classes at Oregon. So Olivier Vernon's getting all the reps and opportunities. So you're really looking at Jonathan Martin, the starting left tackle, going against a second-team pass rusher. And today, I saw some good plays from Martin, and I saw some pressures from Olivier Vernon, that sort of led to sacks and forced a turnover. I would say, he's clearly gotten better. He's stronger. If you look at him, you could see he's stronger, which should help him anchor more. But I'm not sure that the mystery is gone. Can I say that Jonathan Martin will be a top 15 left tackle in the NFL in 2013? I haven't gotten to that point yet.
I'm also reading here that Mike Wallace was not present. How come that is?
Well, a lot of times when you ask a guy why he wasn't present or you ask his camp, they'll say it's a personal matter or a family emergency, blah, blah, blah. I have a great deep-seated resentment for people, including the media members, who sit here and try to persecute players for skipping a voluntary workout session. While players do get paid to participate in these practices and workouts, they are voluntary. They are not mandated. There isn't supposed to be a punishment. if I choose to skip work that day, I have the right to because it's not mandatory. It's a voluntary session. So, while it's said to be a personal matter or family emergency, if you didn't want to come to work today, you didn't have to come to work today. And that's always been my tone. And, in fact, I have a column coming out in tomorrow's Sun Sentinel. A lot of the times, players like Rashad Jones should be skipping these OTA sessions to express their disappointment in the fact that the team hasn't stepped up and offered a contract. I support Randy Starks and what he's doing. You don't feel like you should have to play on the franchise tag. You don't feel like they made you a suitable and acceptable multi-year offer. That's the point every free agent is trying to get to not be playing on a one-year deal where you tear your ACL and then you got to act like Lance Lewis and Brent Grimes and play for minimum contracts and lower than what your market value is. You should use the leverage that you have. And obviously Mike Wallace isn't in pursuit of any kind of leverage, but if the guy just didn't feel like he wanted to attend OTAs or felt like there was a priority, like, today my son's fifth grade graduation, so be it. Go and attend that graduation.
Yeah, makes sense. Just a matter of curiosity, that's all. But it's a good thing you mentioned Rashad Jones. Is there any progress taking place on any talk of a contract extension between the Dolphins and Jones?
No, the only people who are naive don't realize that they're going to put the franchise tag on Rashad Jones if he has a dynamic season like he had last year. So, really, Rashad they're trying to avoid getting the franchise tag placed on him, trying to get a multi-year deal that pays him more than the $1.3 million he's due this year. Good luck with that. I think you're going to look at the situation and see what Jarius Byrd is going through and dealing with in Buffalo. Safeties are one of the lowest paid franchise tags, and there's a tremendous benefit for a team to place that franchise tag on Jones and force him to do it again for probably a third straight season. So I don't expect to see any progress there.
All right, and finally, Omar, I know you get peeved whenever people ask about this, but how did Ryan Tannehill look this afternoon?
The defense got the best of the offense. Today was a day where you saw some interceptions. The first OTA session, they didn't have any interceptions. The ball was taken care of very well. But today, that was last week. This week, you saw 3 interceptions. Tannehill threw a pick 6. Kelsey McClure picked off Matt Moore in the red zone. Alonzo Highsmith got the best of Aaron Corp. It was a day where interceptions were the theme of the day, and in fact there were a number of quarterback pressures. It was red zone work, so obviously you had to make quicker decisions. The coverages was a little bit tighter. First day of red zones, obviously the Dolphins have some work to do to correct the mistakes. But what I did like about what I saw from Ryan Tannehill was that even after he made those mistakes, he responded. He stepped up, and he delivered what I view as 2 touchdown throws during their red zone work, responding to the adversity that he faced. And I looked at them as sort of fourth quarter comeback performances. In my opinion, he finished the practice session strong.
Oh, very nice. Well, Omar, thanks for appearing on the show. Good stuff all around.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Cigar fans, check out fifthdowncigar.com and enter the coupon code PFC to get 10% off your order. Lots of nice high-end cigars. That's fifthdowncigar.com. Enter the code PFC for 10% off your order.
Our thanks to RotoWorld, Adam Levitan, and the Sun Sentinel's Omar Kelly for appearing on our program. You can follow Adam on Twitter at Adam Levitan, that's spelled Levitan, and you can also follow Omar Kelly on Twitter at Omar Kelly. Speaking of follows on Twitter, be sure to follow our program at Dolphins Central for the latest updates on future podcasts, future guests, or if you want to ask any questions about the Dolphins, any questions about the podcast, or even suggest guests to us. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter at Thomas Galicia, Galicia spelled Galicia, for more Dolphins news as well as news about the rest of the South Florida sports scene with some humor and little bits of pop culture mixed in. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Same Fin time, same Fin podcast network, here on Dolphins Central Radio on the Pro Football Central Radio Network.
Yes, I can. Doubt, better leave. I'm running with this plan. Pull me, grab me, grabbers in the bucket can't have me. I'll be the president one day. January 1st. Oh, you like that gossip? Like you the one drinking what gossip.com. Now I got a word for your tongue. How many Rolling Stones you want? Yeah, I got a brand new spirit speaking and it's done. Woke up on the side of the bed like I won. Talk like the wind in my chest to that sun. G5 in the US to Taiwan. Now who can say that? I wanna play back. Mama knew I was a needle in a haystack. Oh, body boy, plus way back. I got a feeling it's a rap. ASAP.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling.